All right, everyone. Well, we are going to get going here. Hi, I'm Maddie LeClaire. I'm with Deed's Small Business Assistance Office and the Office of Small Business and Innovation here at Deed. In that capacity, we assist businesses of all different sizes and industries, including startups. And of course, if you've been in the startup scene in Minnesota, then you probably know about Minnesota Cup, which is the largest statewide startup competition in the entire country. It is an enormous asset to our community and all of the entrepreneurs involved. There's 9 different divisions, and one of those is specifically for students, which is what we are here to talk about today. The application window is opening up next week, and so we thought this would be a good time to talk about the student division and the opportunities available there, and as well as talk to some previous winners. So I'm going to hand it over to Director Kaylin Oliver, who is going to tell us a little bit more.
Amazing. Thanks, Maddie. Thanks to those who are able to hop on today and those who are watching this in a recording. We are excited that you're interested in Minnesota Cup and excited to learn more. I'm actually going to share my screen and run through a fairly quick presentation before we jump into what I think is the fun part, and that is actually talking to some of our previous winners. But if I get a thumbs up from somebody, you can see my screen. Amazing. Thank you. Okay, so Maddie stole my punchline. This is Minnesota Cup. We are the largest statewide startup competition in the nation. And I'm just going to run through a little bit about what the program is, how the application process works, what we're looking for, and then we'll jump into talking to some of our alumni in the student division. So really jumping right into how it works. What we are doing every year is we're running an annual competition. It's a completely free program, and it starts every spring with an application. So as Maddie mentioned, our applications will open on Monday, March 2nd, which is this coming Monday, and they'll be open through April 3rd. And this is a very, very easy first step that you can take to get engaged in the program. The only requirements to apply are that you are based in Minnesota. For students, that means attending college or university here, and that your company or your startup is under $1 million in annual revenue. So I am hopeful that this applies to everyone that's listening. And I am going to dive into kind of sorry, you can hear my cat's food dispenser going off in the background, I'm sure. But so what we do for this competition is every year we're able to really divide it up into 9 mini competitions. One of those is this student division competition that we run. Essentially, what this does is this helps us make sure that when you're applying, you're going to be compared to other applicants that are kind of in your same industry for the other divisions. So education companies will go in one, high-tech companies will go in another. And then we're able to also bring on volunteer judges who review these applications that have expertise in those areas. The student division is kind of fun because we see ideas and startups from literally every single one of these other division industries, which you'll see very clearly from our alums that are talking today. But the student division, the only requirements to apply within that division are that you're currently enrolled in higher ed. So that means college or university here in Minnesota, and that you are under the age of 30. We just have that kind of age cutoff to make sure that you're in a group of folks that aren't coming in with maybe 50 years of experience from the industry. So it's meant to be a little more apples to apples than apples to oranges. So when you're going through this application, we break it down into 3 different sections, hopefully making it as easy as possible. The first of those sections is the opportunity. So the opportunity when the judges are reviewing is actually worth 50% of your scoring. It's where we weight the most of our kind of criteria that we're looking at. And there's really 2 different things that I mean when I say opportunity. The first one is very clearly your market opportunity. What's the profit potential here? How large is your customer base? What are you actually looking for in terms of who might be interested in this product or service that you are offering? But the other side of that is we're looking for something that's scalable and innovative and unique. We want you to tell us the opportunity in terms of how is this new to the market? How is this solving a problem that either hasn't been solved before, or how are you solving it in a better, faster, stronger way? The next part of the application is the plan. This is 25% of your criteria scoring. And it really is all the nitty-gritty things that you put in a business plan. How are you actually going to execute on this opportunity that you've identified? How are you going to reach your customers? What is your profit model, your revenue model? How are you going to make money and succeed and continue to grow? And then the last 25% of your score for this application is based on progress. And that can mean a lot of different things depending on the type of company you are, where you're at in your idea. We see at the scale of you are just kind of in that ideation stage. You're at the very beginning. It's still a concept, which is wonderful, to you are already making revenue. That whole scale is totally fine. We want to see that you are talking to customers, that you're validating your idea. Maybe you have an MVP and you're able to start beta testing with some customers. Whatever that looks like, we are excited to hear what you've done so far. And also in this section, it's a great opportunity to talk about what you're going to do next. So when you're looking at the application, there are literally 3 questions that are based on these 3 sections. And you have 500 words to answer really each of these kind of categories. And there's kind of guiding questions on the application that really help you know what we are looking for each of these answers. All right, so after you complete your application, it really is about 1,600 words maximum. Super quick, super simple. What's going to happen is we are going to go and send them on to our volunteer judges. And those judges are responsible for selecting the top 10 companies that come through each division. So that means 10 of these student division applications will be selected. They will be our semi-finalists. And I'll talk about what that means in a second. But one of the things that I really like to point out about this process is because we have such incredible support from the community and our volunteer judges, we are actually able to provide feedback to every single applicant. So even if you are not selected in those top 10 folks, you are still able to get some really personalized individual feedback on your application, which hopefully will help guide you whether you come back and apply to MinCup next year or just moving forward as you continue to work on your idea. All right, so those 10 companies that we select as our semifinalists are going to get a couple benefits from going through the program. We'll launch really the core of the program with them at the beginning of June, and it goes really throughout the summer. And what's going to happen is those semifinals will be matched with 2 volunteer mentors, really able to provide some general business expertise and guidance. And you're able to really tell us what type of support you're looking for as we match you with our volunteer mentors. We have about 100 every year that work with us. You are also going to have the opportunity to experience more. We run education sessions, really trying to set you up for success as you look to develop your pitch decks, your business plans, everything else you're going to need as you continue to move forward, not just through the Minnesota Cup competition, but move forward with your idea. The other piece that you're going to be working with your mentors on are actually developing those materials I just mentioned. So the end of July, all of our semifinalists turn in a 2-page executive summary of their business plan, a 15-slide pitch deck, and a 1-minute marketing video. All of these are things that you're going to need regardless of how far you make it in Minnesota Cup. But it's also what our judges use to select the next round of folks moving forward. So we move from the top 10 in each division to the top 3. And those materials are how we do that. And the mentors are a really key resource in being able to make sure that you're set up for success there. And then the other thing that you're going to get is just some publicity opportunities. You're going to have chances to pitch in front of audiences, public audiences, get additional connections outside of just those mentors. We are really here to open those doors for you that might not have been accessible otherwise, make those connections that you need as you continue to grow. Now I always end my little spiel with what we call the carrot on the stick, and that is the funding that comes from this competition. So we actually award about $400,000 in non-dilutive, which means there's no strings attached, no equity taken funding every year. And this is kind of the breakdown of that. So what happens, we select the top 3 companies in each division after those materials are submitted. Then those companies have the chance to come and pitch live in person to our judges. And after those pitches, we actually select 1 winner from each division. Every one of those winners is taking home a $25,000 check. Again, there's no strings attached. This is something for you to inject into your business and really use as you think, or as you see fit to continue to grow. The other opportunity is that these, from each of the 9 divisions, these 9 division winners are going to come together and then compete against each other across divisions. And they are getting the chance to pitch in front of a brand new review board of judges for our grand prize. And that grand prize is another $50,000 on top of the existing prize that you've won as a division winner. I will say, some people might think that it's not possible to get that grand prize for the whole competition as a student division participant, but we have had a student division winner actually take home that grand prize a couple years ago. So very possible, which is exciting. And then on top of that, we have some dedicated prizes and additional support from audience favorite pitches and et cetera throughout the competition to we end up giving the 400,000. It ends up being split between about 20 to 25 teams every year. So really, in a nutshell, what we are doing is this is an annual startup competition supporting early stage founders and ideas across the state of Minnesota, especially in this division for students that have ideas in that early stage. This is a great opportunity, potential to get some seed funding really initially as you're starting to go, and then also access to those expert mentors and advice from the judges, and then just broadening your network as you continue to work on your idea. As I said at the beginning, our applications actually open this Monday, so they will be open Monday, March 2nd through April 3rd. You can go to our website and there will be, the application will be live starting on Monday for you. It's very simple as I walked through. And when you go through to do that, one of the first questions you'll be asked is which division. You can just select student. All right. With that, I have some wonderful alums from our student division that I would love to introduce you to. And I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen because it's fun to see faces. And I am excited to have Della and Josie from our 2025 student division winner team, Charm Social Tonic, here with me. And then Aditya from our 2024 student division winner team, Allure, here as well. And before I dive into the super kind of nitty gritty questions of your Min Cup experience, I would love for each of you to just kind of introduce yourself. And I guess I spoiled how you did in Minnesota Cup, but just a brief introduction about you and your company would be great. Whoever wants to go first.
I can go ahead and get us started in that case. So, hi everyone. As Kaylin had said, my name is Aditya, and I competed in the Minnesota Cup back in 2024 for Allure LLC. And essentially, the problem that we were solving was actually an invasive pest that is really common in Minnesota and actually like many places throughout the United States. But it's the Japanese beetle. It's actually what our logo is right now as well. And so we had ended up designing this like cone device that you put outside and it brings in the target pest and it eliminates them within like 15 to 30 seconds. And so we ended up pitching that in the Minnesota Cup. We had some fantastic progress that we could share along with some amazing vineyards that we spoke to. And we did tests in those vineyards as well. And so all of that kind of won over those student division judges. And we're still in business to this day. We're working towards our EPA registration, which would let us sell our product. And so we're aiming to have our product in Bachman stores within the next 2 years, depending on how the EPA registration process goes. And actually, fun fact too is James, who's my co-founder, he's actually working with a group right now where we'll actually be pitching next week for angel investment money. So we're planning on actually raising around and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. I did not know that, Aditya. Congratulations. Also, another fun fact is what I thought you were going to say. Aditya actually competed in Minnesota Cup in 2023 as well with a different company and made it to our semifinalist round. So he's got extra experience. All right, Della and Josie, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I can kick us off here. Hi everyone. Like Caitlin was saying, my name is Della, and I am one of the co-founders of Charm along with Josie here. I we were the 2025 student division winners for Charm Social Tonic. I was a senior at the time at the Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. And a little bit about our company, the problem that we were solving is that we were young students in college who loved to go and hang out with our friends at different like social events, but we found that the the presence and the sort of like the presence of alcohol in those situations was very prevalent, and we found that we wanted an alternative for that. We found there wasn't really a good one out there. So that's why we created Charm, which is a non-alcoholic sparkling seltzer that's infused with adaptogens, which are herbal supplements that reduce stress and boost mood. And so we actually launched our company originally through our capstone project in Carlson. And so that sort of gave us the foundation of like starting a little bit before we entered MinCup. And so, yeah, anything else you want to add there, Josie?
Yeah, I'll just introduce myself a little bit too. Yeah, my name's Josie Miller. I am actually still a current student at the University of Minnesota. I'm a senior graduating this spring, majoring in entrepreneurial management, and then I'm also following a pre-medical track with a double minor in biology and neuroscience. So kind of use some of that science, pre-medicine background and my passion for natural wellness and root cause healing. And my experience working at a clinic it's called naturopathic medicine, where they use a lot of these herbal supplements to help the body create more balance. So use some of that as inspiration behind the adaptogens in Charm. And yeah, our pre-orders are still open, but they won't be for too much longer. Launching very soon, which is super, super exciting.
Amazing. Thank you both. All right. I am going to start with a really broad question, so please feel free to take this in whatever direction you would like. And I'm actually going to start with you. I'll call out in order this time. What just kind of broadly was your biggest takeaway from competing in a Minnesota Cup last year?
Yeah, that's a big one because obviously the Min Cup just provided so many learning opportunities for us. So I think one of the bigger ones for me, and this was especially at the beginning and I'll just because this is sort of talking about the application part of the of Min Cup, was I kind of was like, I don't I don't know. I felt like my company basically had to be perfect before I like applied for something. But and Charm really was not at like a perfect stage at all when we originally had submitted. So I think one of my biggest takeaways is kind of like you just have to start. It doesn't have to be really perfect right away. The Min Cup really helped us clarify a lot of the pieces that were crucial to our current success. And the Minneapolis business community is like super supportive as well. And so we were very fortunate to have a lot of really cool people help us and mentor us. And so yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaways. You don't have to be in any sort of place to enter.
Yeah, I love it. All right, Aditya, I'm going to throw it to you. I'm going to make you think back a little bit to 2 years ago and let me know what you think your biggest takeaway was.
Yeah, I would probably say that the Minnesota Cup's mentorship opportunity, the network that they have for mentorship, is probably one of the biggest things that you could take away from the program if you make it to the semifinalist stage and after. Because, like, not only do they help you look through all of your materials, but there's a matching program that allows you to choose a couple different options so that they match you with like the best mentor or the right mentor. And a lot of times they might have industry experience, or if not, at the very minimum, they might know someone who does in their network. And so it's a great way to like actually get really specific and like knowledgeable information about your startup from like an external perspective. Because I think what happens a lot, especially if you're working on something for a really long time, is that you sort of know how things are going and you might not be aware of your blind spots. And so that mentorship program is pretty huge. The other thing too is I actually applied, a little bit of a fun fact, back in 2022 as well as 2021, actually.
Oh, wow.
2021 was the only year I didn't make it to the semifinalist stage. And that idea I still got feedback on. And I think that was like a really valuable thing about Minnesota Cup because, like Kaylin had said, regardless of if you make it to the semifinalist stage or not, you will still get feedback. And so I was able to use that feedback from 2021 to influence my application for 2022, and then 2023, and then finally 2024 with my latest idea, Allure, and we won the student division. So I would definitely say like the judges are really taking their time and giving feedback. So regardless of what stage of the program you're in, definitely take that feedback to heart to build either a new startup or better the one you have currently so that you can apply next year and reach new levels.
Similar
I
for
love
me that I also had an application back in 2023.
Oh, I don't know how I didn't know these things. I love that. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah, I also just want to say, like, with the mentorship too, it's quite amazing, and we're still in contact with our mentor as well, and she is so wonderful and is so supportive and gives us really helpful feedback. And she joins us on our charm meetings, which is
Yeah.
so fun.
We have a call with her today.
Yeah, later today we'll be talking with her. So yeah, great mentorship opportunity there.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Josie. All right, you are kind of leading me into my next question. But really talk to me a little bit more about the connections that you were able to make during your experience, whether those are judges, mentors, and really how they helped your company move forward and if they're still helping you move forward. Josie, I'll start with you since you had a good segue.
Yeah. So first off, as I said, the mentor, and she has connected us with other people in the industry as well and other resources. We met with someone to help with to help improve our sales strategy, for example, and met with other people in the industry, in the food and beverage industry, which is um, so awesome. And then even from some of the presentations, like in the student division presentation, after giving the presentation, I had quite a few of the judges come up to me afterward and hand me their business cards, and connected them with on LinkedIn too, for future resources, which is also great. And the feedback that they give you there too is so beneficial. And it's also just really cool being in that sort of environment surrounded by really like motivated and inspiring people. Yeah.
Amazing. Della, anything to add?
Yeah, I don't think so. It's similarly like when we had at one of the we do also a showcase for after that's for the finalists, I believe, all the finalists. And yeah, from that experience too, I got a ton of people like that were super excited about Charm and worked in various different industries that could help us in various different ways. So that was great connections as well.
Yeah, just kind of the broader networking at those open public events, I think is kind of a hidden gem.
Yes.
When you have the chance to have that many people come chat with you.
Mhm.
Aditya, what do you think?
So one of the things that we were really lucky to have actually in 2024 was not just one mentor, but actually two. And so sometimes that actually happens, especially if you have like very different needs. So in our case, we needed to do work with our patent, and so they assigned us like literally an IP attorney, which was like honestly really cool because outside of the Minnesota Cup, you would be charging top dollar for something like that. And so being able to work with a mentor who is like an IP attorney was huge because we got to be able to like ask them questions and kind of be able to use their experience to figure out how we can protect the solution that we built. Our other mentor was actually someone who was in agriculture, and so again, like I mentioned earlier, these mentors are chosen very carefully, and they are chosen with your startup in mind. And so we were able to work with both of them to both plan how we wanted to, build a patent, but also how we wanted like to deploy our devices, who we can talk to. So we got connections to like vineyards from our mentors. So really it's kind of up to you how often you want to connect with your mentors and things like that. But you definitely want to take advantage of it because they're just great. So
I love it. All right, now we're going to shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk a little about really the work behind being involved in Minnesota Cup. So, you are welcome to kind of talk about what the process. Let's actually start with the process of actually the application and kind of what that felt like for you all, how accessible or reasonable it felt, and kind of strategies that maybe you used to tackle it. I'll hand it back to you actually.
cool. So yeah, actually, I think I might have a really interesting perspective on this
Yeah.
because I've gone through the Minnesota Cup, or at least applied, I believe 4 times. So the 2021 and 2022, that was when, or actually even up to 2023, the application process was a little bit different than what I believe they did in 2024. Um, so the initial application was, I think, very similar. They asked like, an executive summary, give a description about the progress of the business, tell us what your business is about, standard things that you would have in like a business plan. And then in the semifinalist round, they had, I believe at the time, a much longer process, like I think up to like a 10-page document that you'd essentially fill out. But they actually shortened that in 2024 to something that's a little bit more streamlined, and it really focuses on quality. And so you can kind of see the difference in that. But for us, I think the application process was actually pretty straightforward because I think the goal of that application is to have your business stand out. And so if you did the work and really showcase your business and you've spoken to customers and you've done customer discovery, those questions are designed to pull that information out and actually showcase it in all of its light. And so I would say you can probably expect to have a really straightforward application process. And really, that kind of lets you be able to focus on your business. And then when you apply, you'll be paired with mentors and work towards a pitch deck. That's one of the deliverables once you're a semifinalist and moving to the finalist round. And so it's pretty straightforward, and it really focuses on what you've actively done as a business. So James and I did not really feel like it was a long application process at all.
Yay, I'm glad that came through. Della, why don't you tell us last year how that felt?
Yeah, it feels kind of like, even though it feels like a little bit a while ago now, and so I'm trying to think back. But yeah, I remember it being not like too bad. The one thing that I'll say that I remember is like I remember getting the advice to be super like to make sure you're answering the prompt fully. Because like when judges are looking at it, they're really kind of just like checking off different things. And so that was a big thing for us, at least for that initial application. But, I will say too, especially when we were going past the initial the application, and we had to do for each round a different sort of task. So we had to put together pitches, we had to put together decks. But I will say too, like, even though it was shorter, technically, it's like you have to really be very intentional because you don't have a lot of space. And so I think that was almost like the hard part. Like we had so much to talk about, but it was like really fitting it into something that was super concise. But that really made us clarify things and really produced a great document that we still use to this day. All of those that we still use. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll elaborate just a little bit on what Della pointed out there. So what we have on the application when you go into it is, like I said, kind of you have 100 words for an executive summary. It's basically your elevator pitch. And then the 3 sections I talked about is the opportunity, the plan, the progress. And underneath each of those sections, there's a handful of kind of explicit questions that we're asking that we really want you to be answering. And that is the exact same kind of criteria and questions that the judges get. So they're seeing the same thing that you are. And we want to make sure those lines are open so that they're looking for the same things that you need to be answering in terms of questions. So we hope that makes it a little bit more helpful in terms of what we're looking for. But Josie, anything to add from your perspective?
Yeah, I will say, like, after the initial application and kind of throughout it, we really we got feedback to really show the progress that we were making. And I think that was really huge in helping us to move forward and to stand out. And so we really emphasized um, the where we were and how far we came and the progress that we made in a short amount of time. Like, for example, just in like a couple weeks or from or in a month, based on the different stages. And that I think that was pretty key in helping us.
Amazing. All right, I have one more question, then we'll see if anybody on the call has any questions for you all. If you could just give one piece of advice to students that are thinking about applying this year, what would that advice be? Jesse, I'm going to kick it back to you.
Yeah, I would say just go for it. Just try it out. Why not? And regardless, it's a win. If you move forward, it's a win. If you don't, that's okay. It's a learning experience, and at least you tried. And I think just taking the action of putting yourself out there and giving it a shot will start to build momentum for whatever it is you would like to do.
I love that. Della, what about you?
Yeah. I think a big one of the I said a few of them throughout, but I think another one that I didn't mention was about I guess just judges in general. Like even though it's open to like a company at any sort of stage, I will say like judges do like to see like traction and impact. It doesn't have to be huge though. Like it could be even just talking to, you know, customers. It doesn't have to be this like huge thing that you do, but they do like to see that you're doing things with it. Because obviously that they want to be elevating businesses that have, you know, the passion to move forward, and that will succeed. So yeah, that's one of mine.
I love it. All right, Aditya, close us out.
Cool. That's a lot of pressure, but I actually do have a good one, and Della actually sort of took it. But this was actually something I heard from John Stavig back when I applied like the third time. And I think they had like an info session or like a kickoff session after you make it past the first round. And John had said like one of the biggest things that they kind of see pretty often that sort of differentiates startups, like in general, whether you applied to Minnesota Cup or not, is whether they've actually talked to customers or not. Because the funny thing is, you notice a lot of times people solving problems that they think are problems, but they're not shared by other people. It's actually more common than you think because I think going and reaching out and actually having a conversation with someone, especially if you're in the student division, you're in college, can sometimes I think be nerve-wracking for people. But I definitely promise you, like even a 10-minute cold call that someone picks up and like tells you something about your idea is gonna be so much more valuable than anything you can find on the internet. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons Allure was so successful, our startup, was because we actually like did our due diligence, which is also a buzzword, but you do your due diligence as a startup and like literally everything else will fall in place. Because I think at this stage, finding the problem and like validating it is gonna be really probably half the battle, if not more. Like you can build a solution, you can formulate something, you can formulate an MVP, but you can't formulate a real problem. You got to go find those yourself. So that's probably what I'm gonna say.
I love it. Amazing. I will just say a couple quick things, and then I want to open it up for Q&A in terms of kind of resources that we have. The first one, I'm just throwing the link in the chat for our like general application page. This has a couple different things on it, including once it's live on Monday, the link to the application, which will be super helpful. But it also has an application example from a couple years ago. It's got kind of the breakdown of that opportunity plan progress, those sections, the questions we're going to be asking for each of those. Also some just kind of general tips and tricks on what we're used to seeing. And then the other thing it has for any students that are interested in a little bit more one-on-one support is we have open office hours throughout the entire application period. There is a link there that just takes you to a calendar. And so you are welcome to share that with any students, or if there's students that are looking for some additional support or any clarifying questions, they're always able to reach out to us. The other thing I'll share is an Eventbrite collection to just a couple other info sessions that we're hosting. One next week that'll have, instead of alumni, that'll have some judges on the call to give some of their perspective. We'll do another alumni one, just kind of a couple of different divisions on March 16th. So a couple different opportunities, those will all be recorded just for resources. But if anyone on the call has any questions, either logistics for me or more kind of fun questions for our panel, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question, Kaylin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I know you mentioned executive summary, 2 pages, pitch decks, 15 slides. What was the other one? I think it was like 3 you need.
Yeah, the other one was a 1-minute marketing video. However, I'll clarify. Those materials are specific to our semifinalist round. So the application is the 100-word executive summary, and then the 500 words for each of those opportunity plan progress. So it's only about a 1,600-word application total. And then if you make it to the semifinalist round, those are the 3 kind of materials that you're going to be developing for the next round in the competition. Does that make sense, Arthur?
Oh yeah, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions?
I do have another piece of
Yeah.
advice that could be helpful, if there's no questions, but I think another really important part of it is creating a strong mission and really getting clear on your why and also your impact on the local community and what impact you want to make. For example, with Charm, we want to create a healthier way to socialize, and we really are focused on bringing people together. And that really resonates with a lot of people, and it's a relevant thing happening in the world and in our local community. And if you can show the judges how passionate you are to make a change or fulfill your mission, and also to make an impact on the local, especially Minnesota community, that's really helpful as well.
I love it. Thanks, Josie. You're channeling Simon Sinek. I love that. Any other questions or thoughts from our panelists? All right. Maddie, I know you'll send this out, so please feel free to include the links that I sent, and then obviously my contact
Absolutely.
information for anybody
Yeah,
that has
we'll-
questions.
Yes, we are fully ready to promote MinCup to the fullest extent. We also have a calendar on our website that has all of a bunch of upcoming entrepreneurship events, including all of the MinCup events that Kaylin plugged on Eventbrite. And yeah, thank you all. Thank you, Kaylin. Thank you, Della, Aditya, Josie, for joining us today and sharing your experience in MinCup. We are so lucky to have you sharing all of this, and we're lucky to have you growing and scaling in Minnesota. So thank you all so much for joining today, and happy MinCup season to all.
Thank you so much,
Everyone,
Maddie.
thank
And
you.
thank you to our panelists. Really appreciate it. Good to see you all.
Thank you.